Good day to you, and here we go with a Hall of Famer. Now, I believe I've done one on Trottier. I know I haven't done one on Potvin yet that I'm aware of, or Billy Smith. The New York Islanders, who didn't wear this one, they wore this colored one. The New York Islanders of the early 80s were insanely good at pretty much every part of the game. They were physically intimidating, very talented, gifted, great goal scorers, fantastic goaltending. Their defense was just, bar none, the greatest in the league at the time. And a big part of that was Mike Bossy, who was also a gentleman of the game and still is. Bossy was a beloved figure who, even though I was not a fan of the fact that the Islanders kept defeating teams that I wanted to see win a Stanley Cup, I didn't have a problem with him. He's a number 15 draft pick back in 1977. So pretty solid drafting by the Islanders in the mid to late 70s. And it set them up for that whole dynasty thing, whether it's Potvin, whether it's Trottier, whether it's Bossy. They drafted, they developed very well. He comes in his rookie year, 77-78. So the year of his draft, plays 78 games, 53 goals, 38 assists, 91 points as a rookie. Wins the Calder Award. The Islanders, they don't last very long in the playoffs. 7 games played, 2 goals, 2 assists. And here's the funny thing. He comes into an Islanders team that's pretty good. But they get a reputation as a team that's pretty good during the regular season. But during the playoffs, not so much. Which, looking back now, seems ridiculous. But that's kind of how the whole history thing works. 78-79, 80 games played, 69 goals, 57 assists, 126 points. In the playoffs, 10 games played, 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points. So again, the idea is, well, Islanders are good during the regular season. This Bossy kid's pretty good. Trottier's pretty amazing. But come playoff time, they get pushed out. And I've got magazines and newspapers from the 70s that talk about exactly that. How the Islanders... And Bossy, again, nice guy, but is he tough enough for the playoffs? Can he handle it in the playoffs? Because so far, 17 games played, 8 goals, 12 points altogether. Not great totals. He's a pretty darn solid goal scorer. In fact, he gets 100 goals in 129 games, which is insane. It takes him 129 games to get to 100 goals. That's an insane total. 79-80, so this is when the Cups start to roll in. 75 games played, 51 goals, 41 assists, 92 points. In the playoffs, 16 games, 10 goals, 13 assists, 23 points. And with that run in 1980 and with that Stanley Cup win, the Islanders are seen as a great team. And they're one that are going to rewrite the record books when it comes to what American franchises have been able to do. American franchises, not really known as dynasties. That's more of a Montreal-Toronto thing, and not so much anything that American teams have been really good at cultivating or keeping around. But of course, those of you who are subscribers to the channel watched my history series last summer, and you guys are completely aware of what I'm talking about. 80-81, he plays 79 games, 68 goals, 51 assists, 119 points. That year, he had 50 goals in the first 50 games of the season. He was only the second player to do that. Of course, Maurice Richard was the first. 18 games played in the playoffs, 17 goals, 18 assists, 35 points. So this was the start of 3 years in a row where he would get 17 goals in the playoffs. That's insane. And he is one of the great playoff performers in the league. And you would think, well, that's probably as good as it's going to get. Nope. 81-82, so at a time when goaltenders are just getting shelled from all over. Mike Bossy is one of the main examples of how snipers have taken over. 80 games played, 64 goals, 83 assists, 147 points. The 83 assists, 147 points, pretty high benchmarks for a right winger in the NHL. There's still that is still, I believe, second on both lists for points and assists by a right winger in a season. He got the Conn Smythe that year because in 19 playoff games he had 17 goals, 10 assists, 27 points. And the Conn Smythe seemed to pass between different Islanders each year. It's kind of fun that way. And they were dominant. And this is at a point where there's a lot of really dominant offensive players. And those Islanders in 82, there was already some talk about how they were almost done. Oh, yeah, no, they're almost done. Yeah, no. They had a nice run. They had those 2 Stanley Cups. And then they win their third. 82-83. 79 games played. 60 goals, 58 assists, 118 points. He gets the Lady Byng that year. 19 games played in the playoffs, 17 goals, 9 assists, 26 points. So Lady Byng, of course, for gentlemanly conduct, and he didn't get very many penalty minutes. No point in putting them on the board because he didn't really get very many. This is the final Stanley Cup, of course, for the Islanders dynasty, and Mike Bossy's play doesn't suffer at all, even though I'm sure that, when you look at how he had to retire, he was likely already suffering a lot, but you wouldn't know it by looking at his goals, his point totals, and how he played in the playoffs. A lot of hockey played over those 4 seasons by those Islanders. 83-84, he plays 67 games, so he misses 13 games that year. 51 goals, 67 assists, 118 points. Still gets to 118 points despite the fact he played 12 less games. Solid. Lady Byng again that year. 21 games in the playoffs, 8 goals, 10 assists for 18 points. Of course, famously, in 1984, that's the first year of the Edmonton Oilers dynasty. And we saw a switch. We went from 83, where the Islanders kind of schooled the Oilers. 84, the Oilers came back, and in the rematch, the Oilers were able to down the very tired New York Islanders, who had played a lot of hockey. They won 19 straight series. So that's a record that we will never see defeated. Nobody's ever going to win 20 series in a row. That's 5 straight Stanley Cups. 84-85. 76 games played, 58 goals, 59 assists, 117 points. In 10 playoff games that year, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points. So this is where the Islanders start to show some signs of decline. Not so much in the regular season, but in the postseason. And that a lot of miles have been put on these guys who still seem young, but yeah, they've played a lot of playoff games. There's a lot of bumps and bruises and injury issues that have been going on with these guys. But in 85-86, he does it again. 80 games played, 61 goals, 62 assists, 123 points. He continues to put up tremendous goal totals, great point totals, wins another Lady Byng award, plays 3 playoff games, 1 goal and 2 assists for him. Mike Bossy at this point, it didn't look like whether or not he was going to catch Gordie Howe's goal record of 801. It was when. There wasn't really any question of if, it was when. 86-87, he plays 63 games, 38 goals, 37 assists, 75 points. Something's wrong. 17 less games. He probably gets close to 50 at this pace, but he's not quite the same, and it breaks his record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seasons of 50 or more goals. It's broken that last year. 75 points, his lowest output as a professional. Those totals are still excellent, but he's hurting. 6 playoff games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. At the end of that, he says, I'm taking some time off. His back is killing him. His knees were also a problem, and he's deciding, I'm going to take some time off and we're going to figure this out. He never plays again. He actually retires in October of 1988 because there is nothing to help him to resolve his back issues so that he's able to play the game again. So Mike Bossy retires. He only plays 752 games, which by a Hall of Famer's standard is low, but 573 goals, 553 assists, 1,126 points. Absolutely lights out. And then in the playoffs, 129 games played, 85 goals, 75 assists, for a grand total of 160 points. This is a guy who was a warrior, played through a lot of pain, and yet still won Lady Byng awards. When he was on the ice, he was a gentleman. It never came out in his play. He had the most consecutive 50-plus goal seasons at 9. Most 60-plus goal seasons. It's not consecutive, but he has 5. He and Gretzky are the only ones with 5 60-plus goal seasons. He has the highest career goals per game average at .762. Consecutive hat tricks. He had 3 at one point, which tied him with Joe Malone. Malone hit that point twice in his career. And he was a 5-time first-team All-Star in the NHL, meaning he was voted the best right winger in the league 5 times. Goals per game in the playoffs, he's second on the all-time list with .659. So pretty solid all around. And just as sort of a parting, hey, he did this too. 21.18% shooting percentage, which makes him 4th all time. And each goal level, whether it's 200, 300, 400, or 500, he was fastest. And now he's only behind Gretzky and Lemieux on those lists of fastest to reach those levels. Mike Bossy isn't remembered necessarily as that dynamic of a forward, but I will say this: if you have to compare the greatest goal scorers that I've seen, okay, watching hockey, I would have Bossy, I would have Ovechkin as the top 2 guys, and Ovi, what he's doing now, he's passed Bossy. He's played a lot more games than Bossy. He's passed him in goals. But man, in his prime, to see those two against each other, yeah, it would have been an absolute dream. And for people who say that, today's game, players from the past would have gotten eaten alive, not those Islanders. Those Islanders were a very competitive, fierce bunch. They would have been just as competitive now. Would have loved all the training regimens you have now. They would have loved all of that. This was a hardworking guy and a nice guy on top of it. And there you go. Hall of Famer for today, Mike Bossy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.